So Neil, you're not a climate scientist, but you're a very distinguished scientist and astrophysicist. What do you think about when people say, look, this is not settled science, there are still questions? I sometimes think to myself, look, there are a lot of questions still about Einstein's theories that led to nuclear fission, but we still know that nuclear power plants do operate and they do provide electricity.
So what's happening here is there are people who have cultural, political, religious, economic philosophies that they then invoke when they want to cherry pick one scientific result or another. You can find a scientific paper that says practically anything. And the press, which I count you as part of, the press will sometimes find a single paper and say, oh, here's a new truth. If this study holds it, but an emergent scientific truth, for it to become an objective truth, a truth that is true whether or not you believe in it, it requires more than one scientific paper. It requires a whole system of people's research, all leaning in the same direction, all pointing to the same consequences. That's what we have with climate change as induced by human conduct. This is a known correspondence. If you want to find the 3% of the papers or the 1% of the papers that conflicted with this and build policy on that, that is simply irresponsible. And how else do you establish a scientific truth if not by looking at the consensus of scientific experiments and scientific observation of large bodies of research that all agree. Right. When you see scientists arguing, and I tweeted, I said, if you think scientists want to always agree with one another, you've never been to a scientific conference, because people are duking it out. But what are they fighting over? Not the settled science that's been in the books. We're fighting over the bleeding edge of what is not yet known. And that is the natural course of science. Now, if you, as a journalist, want to eavesdrop on that meeting, you'll think scientists don't know anything about anything. But it's the body of knowledge that is accumulated over the decades that precedes this that becomes the canon of what, if you're going to base policy and legislation on, that's what you should be thinking about.
So you would say this is a moment to listen to climate science.
I think this 50 inches of, I can't even picture 50, how many raindrops is that? 50 inches of rain in Houston. This is a shot across our bow. A hurricane the width of Florida going up the center of Florida. These are shots across our bow. At what will it take for people to recognize that a community of scientists are learning objective truths about the natural world and that you can benefit from knowing about it?
Just for the record, Doc, it's settled science, right?
Well, you don't have to ask me. You can ask the U.S. National Academy of Sciences. You can ask any of the more than 30 scientific societies in the U.S., the American Physical Society, the American Geophysical Union, the American Meteorological Society. I could go on and on. All are on record.
And they're not here. You're here.
That's right. And what they...
So I'm asking you. It is super, super settled science, right?
Yeah, I mean, absolutely.
Okay.
The National Academy of Sciences was founded, people forget this, by a Republican president, Abraham Lincoln, and they've said, look, climate change is real, it's caused by human activity, it's already a problem, it's going to be a much worse problem if we don't do something. There's still time to do something about it.
18. That's how many scientific societies in the United States have issued official statements on climate change, from the American Geophysical Union to the American Medical Association. 50. That's how many years it's been since US scientists officially warned the president, Lyndon B. Johnson back then, of the dangers of climate change. And 97. That's the percentage of climate scientists who agree that climate change is real, and for the first time in the history of the planet, we're the ones causing it today. How is it that we've got our science so tangled up with our politics? I mean, the physics we use in climate models, nonlinear fluid dynamics and radiative transfer, for all the nerds out there, that's the same physics we use in designing airplanes and satellites. Yet no one doubts the reality of a Boeing 747 or a communications satellite, or accuses them of being part of a worldwide hoax, do they?